So it appears that Enlisted is getting a lot of new players, and it is my job, I feel like, to help out those new players by giving them guides. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a guide on how to grind the entire German tech tree, what squads to use in each tier, and most importantly, what weapons you should use, and some tips and tricks to go along with them. Without further ado, let's get started. At tier 1, we have the Gewehr 3340. This is actually a pretty good bolt-action rifle, and if you ask me, all the bolt-action rifles are pretty much the same except for the snipers, which are different. Hence, I will suggest that you get the Gewehr 3340. In terms of assaulters, get the MP340, and if you have a tank, I suggest that you get the 7532 M41, and if you want a plane, the IAR 81C. Overall, this is a pretty easy start, and at tier 1, I highly just suggest that you stick and grind everything you can for tier 1, because once you grind and finish tier 1, I highly suggest that you upgrade all the troops, your soldiers, before you go into any other tier. That said, at tier 1, I highly suggest that you get the medic squad, the sniper squad, and either a tank or plane squad, and that is up to you. That said, I highly suggest that you max out everything, especially the squads and the soldiers in those squads, especially the engineer squad. That said, let's move on to tier 2. At tier 2, I highly suggest that you throw everything out and to get the Armaguerra Mod 39. This is a very good weapon, and you also get the MP38, which is actually unfortunately having you to research a lot of weapons before you can get that. That said, this is essentially the MP40, which is very famous, with the MP38 only being 2 levels below the MP40 for exactly the exact same stats that you will be getting in the MP40. That said, I highly suggest in terms of machine guns, get the MG13, and while you're at it, get either the Panzer IIIN for tanks, and keep using the IAR 81C for the planes. To recap, if tier 2, you should be really using the assaulter squad, the machine gun squad, either an assaulter or a radio operator squad, of which I highly suggest the radio operator, and either a tank or plane squad, in which I highly suggest that you get the Panzer IIIN because that thing is amazing. That said, let's move on to tier 3. Tier 3, in terms of the weapons, you get the Gewehr 41. This is a pretty good semi-automatic rifle for the Germans. In terms of the assaulter, you get the ZK383, which is actually very good. I highly suggest that you get that. In terms of machine guns, get the MG34. In terms of the anti-tank weapons, get the Panzerfaust 60, because that thing is amazing. In terms of the tanks, get the Panzer IV-J, and in terms of the planes, you can either keep using the IAR 81C or the Bf-110G2, which has rockets, a 37 and a 30mm cannon. That said, tier 3 is a very interesting tier in the sense that I highly suggest that you don't play it, and if you do, be prepared to face up tiers and down tiers, so that's that. That said, finally, another thing that you should keep in note is the fact that you can also be using the grenade launcher, which is a very good weapon to use if you are still running around with riflemen, so that's great. Moving on to tier 4, which is actually a tier I highly suggest that you never play. You can essentially use the Gewehr 43 in terms of the riflemen. In terms of the assaulters, you can get the Beretta M38A with the 40 rounds. In terms of machine guns, you can either get the MG42 or the MG34 with the 75 round magazine. In terms of anti-tanks, get the Panzerfaust 100 and you'll be set for every tank that you'll be facing. And in terms of actual tanks, I highly suggest that you get the Tiger H1, which is actually found with the Tiger E, so that's unfortunate. In terms of the planes, I highly suggest that you keep using the IAR 81C, or the JU-188 for planes, or the Fiat G55, so that's great. And finally, we have tier 5. At tier 5, which up until this tier, you should be using radio operators, machine guns, assaulter, and either a plane or a tank if you're a free-to-play player. At tier 5, you should change that up a bit. You should actually be using engineer squad. Like I said, from tier 1, it's very important. An assaulter squad and a medic squad, because at tier 5, you have some very insane weapons. One of them is the FG-42-2. The other thing is the STG-44, all of which are insanely good. In terms of tanks, which I only suggest that you use a tank in this case, or if you're feeling really lucky, you can use a plane. But in terms of tanks, get the Tiger II-H. In terms of planes, get the Bf-109K4. Both of them are amazing, of which the Tiger II-H is borderline overpowered, so that's good. Overall, this is the entire guide to how to grind the German tech tree. Hope you enjoy, and comment in the comment section down below if you have any questions, because I will be helping out. Without further ado, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.